Hey gun people, good news that those two officers that lied on a search warrant got those two people killed are now being charged with murder. DA did a pretty good press release. Few news articles here. If you remember, they went in and killed a black officer, lied, said he bought dope, didn't really buy dope, went in, killed a white guy and a white female, shot them both several times, entered with a SWAT team with a no-knock warrant, and he lied in his affidavit saying they bought dope for it when they never did. He said he used a CI and he never did. He later admitted that he made a purchase there, which I think he's lying again, but and they're not saying in any of these stories that they let him retire. He retired right after this incident, and the reason why he retired is he didn't want to have to cooperate with the investigation of the PD. If he kept his job, then he had to cooperate or they could fire him. But because he retired, now they can't run an internal investigation, so they just have to run a criminal. Because they can run a criminal, he can refuse to answer questions and invoke his fifth. That's why he retired. But it looks like the DA, I guess, worked with the Texas Rangers and they got a good enough case to charge him. So let's take a look at her press release. So these are their two officers. This is Goins. He's the one that did the warrant, went in front of a judge, swore under penalty of perjury that everything was true, and he lied out his teeth. This is the guy that later said, Stephen Bryan, that later said, oh yeah, I remember when he did the buy and I verified the dope. So what they're going to try to do, they're charging them both. They're going to end up cutting a deal with one to get the other one. And here's the DA doing a press release, and I'll be pausing it because I'll be commenting on what she's saying, explaining. So if you don't want to see it pausing, then go find it yourself and quit crying in the comments like a big pansy. Wham! All right, move on. I digress.
I'm joined today by members of our administration's leadership team as well as our civil rights prosecutors to make an important announcement. On January 28, 2019, members of the HPD Narcotics Squad 15 breached a residence located at 7815 Harding Street. That residence was occupied by Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle. Both Nicholas and Tuttle were killed, and during that breach, 4 members of the squad shot.
Notice they're not saying that the 2 that were killed shot the 4 members of the team. I've always suspected that most of these injuries were friendly fire because they panicked and just shot everything that moved. So they killed the man, the woman, and the dog, and they shot 4 cops. But they're not saying who shot the cops. That's key.
1 remains seriously injured as I speak. HPD Narcotics Division Squad 15 entered the Harding Street home under the authority of a search warrant obtained that same day by former HPD officer Gerald Goins.
She says former officer. She didn't say retired police officer. Little wording that most people will miss. Why is he retired? Why didn't they fire him?
A member of the squad. The search warrant was signed by a City of Houston municipal judge pursuant to an affidavit that had been prepared and presented by Officer Goins. The warrant was never presented to nor reviewed by any member of the district attorney's office.
That's a problem. All my warrants had to be reviewed by the DA in whatever county I was in. If I did it in Sac County, a Sac DA had to review my warrant. If I did it in Yolo County, a Yolo DA had to review my warrant. The reason the DA needs to review warrants is they're going to have to defend that warrant on its face. So when they read it, if they think the probable cause is weak or they think that there's something should be in there that's important that could help them in court or hurt them in court, then they're going to want to clear up those things before they approve the warrant, before you take it to a judge. And then when the judge looks at it, he knows it's already had one type of review from an attorney, and then he reads it and gives it a second review. In this case, he wrote the warrant and he took it straight to the judge. Bad move in a lot of ways. I don't know if it's policy, if he violated policy when he did that. If there's not a policy, there should be a policy. All warrants should go through the DA's office. Some ADA needs to approve it.
The type of search warrant requested by Officer Goins was called a no-knock warrant. A no-knock warrant is a search warrant that authorizes entry into the target location without first knocking and announcing the presence and purpose of the officers executing the warrant. In order to get the municipal judge to sign the no-knock warrant, former HPD Officer Goins...
Now, what she's going into here is when you get a warrant, if you request a no-knock warrant, you have to justify why you want it because they're not given out for any reason. And normally the reason is there's people that are armed, or this person we're after is armed, or we know there's a lot of weapons in there. If we announce, we'll give them time to grab a gun. That's normally all the justification you need. If you can say there's weapons in there, then you can get a no-knock warrant. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you what the law says.
He's made numerous false statements in his affidavit to the judge, including that a 2-week narcotics investigation into alleged narcotics activity at the residence had just been concluded, that a confidential informant had made a successful buy of heroin from an unknown 55-year-old male the previous day at the residence, that the alleged drug seller carried a 9mm handgun, thereby making a no-knock warrant necessary.
See, he didn't just say there was a 9mm in the house. He said he carries it on him, on his persons. So if you have it on your person when the cops come in, does it really matter if they knock or don't knock? And if they did a buy the day before, why didn't the warrant affidavit say, and I read the affidavit, I did a whole video, I think an hour video on going over the warrant with problems. And it never said in the warrant that they tested the dope, that they had testing that the dope was positive. It didn't say how much dope exactly they seized. There was all kind of missing flags, kind of like, man, this sounds shady. He grabs a warrant the day after he makes a buy. He doesn't have the DA do it, and now he's doing a no-knock warrant. And it turns out it was all freaking lies. They still haven't said why he lied. What was the purpose? One of the reports did say he's facing charges for stealing guns and stealing dope.
And that knocking and announcing the officer's presence would be, quote, dangerous, futile, or would inhibit the effective investigation of the offense.
Standard lining. I bet you every no-knock warrant says almost the exact same thing that they said. That's why it's kind of a joke, and that's why a lot of judges are just like, you know what? Good judges will be like, I don't want to hear this cookie-cutter sheet printout that you copied and pasted. You need to give me some good articulable facts on why I should violate the knock notice requirement.
A search warrant issued by a magistrate is a government document. In order to execute the no-knock warrant, a tactical plan was devised and prepared by former Officer Goins in anticipation of the raid on the Harding Street residence. The tactical plan was to be carried out by Officer Goins and 10 other members of Narcotics Squad 15. During the briefing about the tactical plan, former Officer Goins reiterated to his fellow squad members that the male in the residence was known to carry a handgun in his waistband and that there was a large dog who could pose a threat at the residence.
Pretty much justified. First one that sees the dog, shoot it. That's what that statement was for. That's what that lie was in the affidavit.
At approximately 4:30 p.m. that same day, January 28, 2019, Narcotics Squad 15 breached the residence by force.
They kicked the door.
In the immediate action that occurred, once the door was opened, Regina Nicholas, Dennis Tuttle, and their dog were killed. They were killed by members of Squad 15 as they executed the warrant. The cause of death, as confirmed by the ME, was homicide, multiple gunshot wounds to both victims. 4 members of HPD's Narcotics Squad 15, including Gerald Goins, were also shot. As far as who's responsible for those officers' injuries, the Texas Rangers have assisted us in this portion of the investigation, and I want to thank their director.
Oh, that's nice. They insisted on who shot the police.
Colonel Steve McCraw, for aiding us through their expertise and support of our attorneys' efforts. Their findings will be presented to the grand jury who will begin hearing this case.
Oh, so we're not going to tell you that. I'm going to hold a press release, but I'm not going to tell you who shot the cops. We're just going to keep saying 4 cops were shot and the 2 people were killed. That's BS to me. But anyway.
In the next few weeks. 2 days after the raid and the killing of the civilians on January 30th, then Officer Stephen Bryant wrote a supplement to the original offense report, also a government record. In that supplement, HPD Officer Bryant claimed he had previously assisted Goins in the investigation of Harding Street drug dealing, and that he had done so just the day before, on January 27th, the day that Goins claimed a confidential informant had successfully purchased heroin from an unknown 55-year-old white male, that eventually being Mr. Tuttle. Bryant's claims were false.
So he lied in a document 2 days after the shooting. So in a minute, she's going to connect why she's talking about official government documents. But his official document where he lied was after the deaths. Goins, the officer who wrote the search warrant, was before their deaths. That'll be cleared up in a second.
He further fabricated that 2 days after the raid on the Harding Street residence, that he, quote, recovered a plastic bag that contained a white napkin and 2 small packets of a brown powdery substance that he knew, based on his skill and expertise, contained heroin. Bryant claimed he recognized the drugs as the same drugs allegedly purchased by Goins' CI the day before.
So this cop is saying that I've seen a lot of heroin and crank and meth and all kind of drugs in my day, and there's no damn way in hell that I can look at any drug and say, oh yeah, that was from this house and that was from this house. For this guy to say, oh yeah, I looked at the brown powdery substance, it was heroin, and it was from the buy at that place, just smells of bullshit. But let's see where it goes.
January 27th. That was false. In an interview subsequent to the HPD investigation, Goins later admitted.
Okay, this is where he's in big trouble, because admissions are the number one thing that juries convict on. That's why you always keep your mouth shut and you never do it. Why this cop, and cops always run their mouth, they never invoke their right. They screw everybody over getting them to talk, knowing that it's going to be a good conviction if you talk. And as soon as they get in trouble, they end up talking. I never got it.
1, there was no confidential informant who purchased drugs at 7815 Harding Street. So
that's one lie. There was no CI. That's a pretty big lie. You got a warrant based on that incident, and you made it up. Why did you make it up?
2, he claimed instead that he personally made the drug buy.
Oh, so now he's trying to say, well, I did buy the dope, and the warrant was good, and since I can't find a CI to admit that they made the buy, I'll say I made the buy, because then nobody can say I didn't. Wow.
3, he affirmed that Steve Bryant never made any identification of the substance alleged to have been purchased at 7815 Harding.
So he sold out his buddy and said, no, he's lying. I don't know why he wrote that statement.
4, finally, Goins admitted that he could not determine whether Mr. Tuttle was the same person from whom he had allegedly purchased narcotics.
Because he didn't purchase narcotics. That's why he couldn't confirm it. Total BS.
Officer Goins was injured. The interview was taped. He answered in writing.
Only thing worse than a verbal statement of admission is a written statement of admission.
Because false information was provided to a magistrate in order to secure a search warrant, Goins' actions violated Texas Penal Code 37.10, tampering with the government record, a second-degree felony. Because the execution of the warrant resulted in forced entry into the home at 7815 Harding by armed police officers, members of Goins' own squad shot and killed Regina Nicholas, Dennis Tuttle, and their dog. Under Texas law, if during the commission of one felony, in this case tampering with a government record, a person commits an act clearly dangerous to human life, execution of a no-knock warrant by an armed squad of police officers into a private residence that causes the death of another, in this case 2 deaths, it's first-degree murder. We call that felony murder.
So what she's doing is, in order to get a felony murder charge, they needed to have a criminal act, another felony. And because he lied in a search warrant, that was a felony, messing with a false document. I think they got to charge him with perjury because he signed it under penalty of perjury. That's another felony. But anyway, he not only endangered the people in the house, he endangered all the officers, and the ones that got shot, they were endangered. So his felony. Now, some people were saying, why isn't capital murder? Why can't he get the death penalty? Usually capital murder is, I think, murder of a cop or a special victim like a pregnant woman or something like that. And normally it's a specific intent crime. You have general intent, implied intent, negligence, and specific intent. Usually for capital crime, you want specific intent crimes. You've got to show that that person lying in wait is a good thing. You had the intent to kill him because you waited with a gun behind the door. So that's a good capital murder case.
Today we charge Gerald Goins with 2 counts of felony murder. We've also charged former HPD officer Stephen Bryant with 1 count of second-degree tampering with a government document. And these charges are based on the fact that then HPD officer Bryant's false representations on his offense report, which the evidence will show were intended to support Goins' actions, were false. But because Bryant's actions occurred after the raid and the killings, he is charged with 1 count of second-degree tampering.
Yeah, okay, so I didn't listen this far in the press release. I kind of stopped because I knew I was going to do a video. So they're charging him with felony tampering, which means he could probably get prison time, but they're going to cut him a deal if he can give them good information to get a conviction on Goins, as far as, did he do this often? Where does he get dope? Have you ever known him to steal weapons? Because they're investigating him for stealing weapons and drugs, I have a feeling Bryant is their star witness, and if he cooperates, they're not going to request prison time for his making that false statement.
The intent of the false entry was to defraud HPD investigators, supervisors, prosecutors, and the public. This morning, a judge signed arrest warrants for both defendants. Instead of executing those warrants, we contacted Goins and Bryant's attorneys, and we've agreed with them that they have until 3 p.m. today to turn in their client.
That's always funny because they don't do that to other citizens. They want to arrest. They want to do the perp walk. They want the press there. But because these guys are government, we're going to go ahead and just call their attorney and say, hey, man, why don't you bring your guys down and so we can get them booked for murder. And then they're going to say, you know what? Because they turned themselves in and we didn't arrest them, they're not a flight risk. So they'll probably be eligible for bail. But if we went out there and chased them, then we could say, no, we had to go arrest them. They didn't turn themselves in. So then you can get no bail. I don't know if Texas gives bail on murder warrants. Most states normally don't, but we'll see.
Both surrenders, I believe, are in progress. A Harris County grand jury will shortly begin to review all the evidence that's been gathered in the case to determine if further charges are warranted against either Goins or Bryant, if they're authorized against any other officers, and to review extraneous claims against Goins, which have come into our office directly from the street. Their job will be, along with ours, to determine if a greater pre-existing problem existed within HPD Narcotics Squad 50.
Absolutely there is. Somebody needs to be held accountable. The Houston Police Department needs to be charged with failure to maintain, failure to supervise. There's a Supreme Court out there. It's called vicarious liability. When supervisors fail to supervise and allow their subordinates to do things that they know are illegal and unjustified, and they don't correct it, when those people end up causing criminal acts, the supervisor can be held liable. And when the police department retains people who are a problem and who have a lot of write-ups, etc., it's what's it called? Something retention, but negligent retention. They didn't take acts on all his prior things that would show or would lead a reasonable person to believe this guy is a hazard. We need to take away his ability to go out and violate the law. So both those should be done. Will they be done? No, they're going to be covered it up because they've got somebody in government now they can point on and say it's all Goins. I'm not saying Goins isn't a piece of shit and he shouldn't go to jail for the rest of his life. I'm just saying there's a whole bunch of other people that are involved in this that didn't do their job. Government failure at its best is right here in your face, and they're going to make it all about, oh, it was Goins. Everybody else did a great job. Everybody else didn't know. It wasn't government, it was Goins. Oh.
15. The Houston Police Department handed over their complete investigation on May 22nd, and I anticipate that our investigation will continue through the remainder of this year. Prosecutors have been and are currently going through 14,000 different cases related to these officers. And I can tell you that after having talked with our leadership, amongst ourselves, we have not seen a case like this in Houston.
This is a huge case. I've never seen where a cop has made up false information to enter a house and then people get killed on that entry. I've never seen that. I don't even know if I've ever seen a cop making false information that I knew of where they got caught, that it was public. I've never heard of it before.
I've not seen a case like this in my 30 plus years of practicing law. We recognize that the community has been violated. And I want to assure my fellow Houstonians and other residents of Harris County that we are getting to the truth. You have heard chapter 1. Each day, we uncover more. And with each fact, we work towards doing justice. The breach of the public trust gives us great pause in this case because our democracy depends on the public's trust of law enforcement.
Well, let me give you a clue. This case ain't degrading the trust. It's already degraded. It's being degraded every day. And the fact that this case was allowed and 2 people are dead, I don't care if you prosecute them or not. It shouldn't have happened, and it just goes to show the incompetence and failure of government.
And their courts. I trust the able prosecutors and investigators and staff of the DA's office, the work of the grand jury, HPD investigators, their chief, to help us find all the answers about why this tragedy occurred. We know how it happened. This is action number 1 in what has already begun to be an in-depth review of HPD Narcotics Division and specifically Squad 15.
If their Narcotics Division is run this loosey-goosey, I guarantee you their vice, their gang, their prostitution, and every other division is run with the same lack of professionalism, guidance, and checks and balances. I guarantee it. And the same quota hiring, lack of standards, and you can't hold anybody accountable or they'll cry sexism or racism.
We recognize that our duty is to the people of this county, and that while today the focus is on Gerald Goins and Stephen Bryant, there may be more to the story. I want to thank the law enforcement officers and investigators from HPD and their internal squad. I want to thank the chief of police who is violated in Harris County, and the people are wronged. We investigate, we prosecute, and we hold offenders accountable, regardless of their position the size of their pocketbooks, or the uniform they wear. And Houston is safer because of that.
Yeah, who believes that? Raise your hand. If your hand's up, you're an idiot.
Questions?
Why is this not indicted as capital murder, or could you explain the difference of why it wouldn't be capital murder versus felony murder if it was during the commission of another crime?
You know, the grand jury has not elected a final charge. We brought charges directly today because we felt that that was the best course of action in terms of setting off the rest of the
The grand jury will not go with capital murder because it just doesn't fit.
formal investigation with the grand jury. And while they can consider capital murder, the difference is the specific intent required to set out and murder people. In this instance, we believe that the evidence shows that during the commission of one felony, Goins committed acts clearly dangerous to human life. It makes it murder. But capital murder could be considered by a grand jury.
The only way this meets capital murder is if they connect Goins to either the man or the woman having sex, wanting to kill one of them. They find a text to where he wants to get them murdered. He made a threat that I'm going to kill this person. I'm going to write a warrant and I'm going to get their asses shot. If they have something like that, then we're at capital murder because he did it with the intent to get somebody killed. Absence that, I don't think they got capital murder, in my opinion.
District Attorney Ogg, there was so much of a specific type of narrative that came out the night of the shootings and thereafter.
Yeah, the first narrative was the chief out there supporting his people saying, this is a dangerous job. These people fired on our officers. These people shot my guys. They defended themselves. They were killed. The chief took a total 100%. I'm government. I'm protecting government. The two homeowners were automatically guilty and wrong. That's the narrative he's talking about.
When you look back at that period of what was said by officials and what your office was able to uncover, what goes through your mind after you announce those two indictments?
You know, I'm going to speak for me and not for any other agencies, but
That's pretty smart on her part. That's a good answer.
as a lawyer, I've learned that it's best to wait till the evidence is in before we draw conclusions, because our assumptions can be wrong. If incorrect assumptions were made, then those public officials will deal with that. But they have worked with us to bring this case to fruition. They have been cooperative, and I appreciate their cooperation.
What do you say to the Tuttles as well as to the family of Regina Nichols?
We know they're lawyers, and I have met Regina's brother. I want to tell them how sorry we are as a city and as a county for the actions that resulted in the loss of their loved ones' lives.
This is total BS. Nobody cares about these people. They got to say that because they have to act like they're caring. Most people are like, damn it, Goins got us in a jam. I got to deal with this. We're spending all this time and resources on investigating this shit. He's making us look bad. That's what they're concerned about. They could care less about serving the public. This false pretense that government runs around and gets up every morning saying, gee, I wonder how I can protect the citizens and show them that the money that we're stealing from them in taxes is going for a good job, and I'm going to do the best job I can for the citizens. I mean, anybody that believes that's a freaking idiot.
And that our work is dedicated to ensuring that their loved ones receive justice, and that this same group of acts, never happens again.
I apologize, I came in a bit late. Did you discuss motive at all? Why?
I did not. You know, interestingly, under Texas law, motive is not a required element of the crime of murder.
It doesn't matter whether motives are cut. Every time we see a crime against a black person, it's automatically a freaking hate crime. This guy's black and he killed 2 white people. Nobody's mentioning hate crimes. And now she says, oh, motive's not an issue. Really? It's always an issue when the colors are reversed.
And yet people always want to know. There are many other facts that are involved in this case, including a call by a citizen to the location, But motive is something often that we don't know till the very end of the investigation, and sometimes is never known. Who can know what lies in hearts these troubled?
I can't believe nobody asked Goins, why the hell did you lie about a CI? And if he said, well, because I bought the bike. So why did you lie? Why did you want in this house? What was the... I can't believe nobody asked that.
But I think that we will learn. There was a citizen call to the location. I think that remains to be investigated further.
Were there any charges you presented?
What does that mean? There was a citizen call to the location. I don't even know what the hell that means.
To the grand jury, which were not true bills, along with these charges?
This has not been presented to the grand jury, Joel. This has been directly filed by us as we hold the authority and ability to do that. It will all be presented to a grand jury as part of the complete investigation on the shooting of the Tuttles, the shooting, and, well, both of them, the shooting of the police officers, and other information about the squad.
What does it say that you took that step? You didn't present to a grand jury first, but you made a direct charge
That's a good question. I'm wondering the same thing. Why didn't you go to the grand jury?
regarding these officers.
What it says is that this is a case like no other that we've seen. We handled it in a way we thought most appropriate, and we felt based on the safety of the public, the safety of the confidential informants that were used in this case, the fact that the defendants both have active passports, have access to their retirement money and their drop files, that it was important that we let the public know we had brought charges now, and that while the investigation goes, the public could rest assured that they were safe.
Oh, does everybody feel safe now because they charged these guys? Come on. Rick, why are you being so mean? I'm just being a realist, and people hate realists nowadays. Everybody got to do freaking PC, hug a tree.
Are the two officers in state? You say they're surrendering. You've been working with them. Are they in state surrendering at these offices, or are they coming in from out of state to surrender?
They're here. And of course, our team had eyes on them.
I was about to say, I'm glad she said that, because I was like, look, when they knew they were going to charge these guys, they put tags on these guys and they were being followed. And if they went to an airport or looked like they were going to flee, they would have snagged them. So they were definitely watching them.
Starting early this morning to ensure that should either one of them decide not to surrender, that we would be there to prevent that. We of course had backup from HPD. We are not first responders, but our folks have had eyes on them all morning.
That's meaning her DA investigators were probably following her.
HPD's waiting in backup. And it's my understanding from both lawyers that they are surrendering.
Have you formulated a bond
Well, shit, if a lawyer said it, it must be true.
recommendation for Mr. Goins? What is-
We have. We're asking for $250,000 bond on each count against Goins and $100,000 on the count against Bryant.
250? They're only asking $500,000 bond on Goins? Wow. Wow.
I anticipate that there will be a bail hearing this afternoon, perhaps. The cases have landed in the 228th District Court. It looked like there was some, maybe a couple of courts where the cases had gone, but as you all know, the lowest cause number attracts, and we believe that's in the 228th. So we anticipate a bond hearing either later today or in the very near future. That's what the lawyers have asked for.
So,
We noticed that.
do you know what prompted this raid? What was the theory for these officers to create, fabricate evidence and present it as a warrant?
So without going into Officer Goins or Bryant's motives, which I'm not prepared to do right now, I will tell you
So you do have motive. You're just not willing to go into them. That sounds like a slip.
that the narcotics squads exist to investigate narcotics crimes in a neighborhood, that this address had come to the attention of the narcotics squad because of a neighbor, but what Goins did or did not do has not been revealed, and I don't intend to talk about it today. I can tell you that they entered the evidence on the sworn word of Gerald Goins that a confidential informant had purchased heroin at that address the day before, and we know now by Goins' own admissions that was false. He claims he bought the drugs. We
Is
don't.
that sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Just two questions. Is that confidential informant that Goins originally named cooperating with you in this investigation?
He cooperated earlier in the investigation. He said he didn't buy it.
She has cooperated with the investigating officers from HPD, and we anticipate continued cooperation.
And we noticed former Chief McCullen is here.
Close. It's Chief Bradford.
Sorry.
He preceded, no, it's quite all right. He preceded McClellan. Both he and former council member Gracie Sines have joined our leadership team. I welcome their expertise. They've both held public office. Of course, Chief Bradford has been.
Look at all government standing there in their suits looking all official, looking all representative, getting their time on the TV when government finally did something right.
Been the former chief of police, and I think both have contributed significantly to the brain trust that is this leadership.
Shit. Sorry about that.
I rely on these individuals that you see around me every day. These are not solo decisions that we pop off. We get together, we communicate. I can tell you they are the hardest working group of public servants in town, and I'm very proud of their support and their actions through this entire ordeal.
Can we have a statement from Mr. Perez?
Of course, yes. Can you let me finish answering the questions in English, and then we'll have Ruben step up.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How far back are you looking? I know the police department's investigation went back 5 years. Are you going back farther?
No, I'm doing the thing in English. If you want it translated, feel free to translate it. We're in America, and I'm speaking English. Rick, you can't say that. That's not fair. That's what's damn wrong with Texas. Damn liberals taking over.
Give us the scope of what you're looking at.
Right now, we're looking at those 14,000 cases. They do exceed the 5-year time limit. I will tell you that in the 2,000 or so cases that have been the product of Gerald Goins' narcotics career, that we have agreed with our post-conviction group and our conviction integrity group to review those cases. That's where we are.
This is a complex investigation and a very close one because of the parallels that you have along with HPD in other areas. This said, because of those difficulties at times, was there any type of immunity granted to any members?
No. No immunity has been granted. No grand jury presentation has yet been made. All those things are, of course, possibilities in every criminal presentation to a grand jury and to a petit jury. And I can't predict right now and would not want to predict whether or not any immunity would be granted. But we have not, to be clear.
Can you say, is this the actions by these two officers an isolated incident, or do you think that this was part of a larger pattern in their careers, or can you speak to any of that?
Yes, sir. The purpose of the broader investigation of Gerald Goins' past cases and of the squad's ties to these 14,000 different cases is for that specific reason, to determine if this was a single act by rogue officers or whether it's part of a greater...
Please. Single act. Are you kidding me? This is an act that has gone on for a long time with little small violations, and it has advanced to where he's actually lying on warrants to get search warrants. There was much more smaller crimes committed for long times, and probably not just by him.
And pre-existing problem in that squad or that division. But I'm not prepared to, in any way, either affirm or deny that there are other actions besides these. I can tell you, though, we have had individuals contact our office who have had prior contact with Officer Goins, and there are other complaints that we are reviewing.
Do those include stealing money?
They do.
Oh, those include stealing money. They do. So there's going to be stealing. So probably what Goins was doing is he was patting down people and taking their money and saying, if you say anything, I'll just run a raid on your house and I'll arrest you or whatever. So I heard somewhere else that he was stealing drugs and guns. She just confirmed he's stealing money.
What about drugs or guns?
They do.
Drugs, guns, and money. Oh, this is the shining star of the Houston Police Department. This is diversity is our strength poster child.
For both Goins and the other officers?
No, ma'am. Just Goins. At this time, I'd like to welcome Ruben Perez. He is the Bureau Chief of Special Crimes, Harris County District Attorney's Office. Ruben?
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Me llamo Rubén Pérez.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, they're speaking to the other half of the country that doesn't have to speak English. Maybe they'll have a Russian dude come up and then they'll blame Trump. All right, let's take a look at a couple of little news clips.
Street earlier this year.
Former officer Gerald Goins now charged with 2 counts of murder. Stephen Bryant facing a charge of tampering with a government document in connection with the case.
Channel 2 investigates all over this story tonight. We start our team coverage with investigator Joel Eisenbaum, who lays out what all happened today. Joel?
Jonathan, there is no doubt a lot happened in the Harding Street matter today. None of it good for these 2 former HPD officers who can now officially be labeled as criminal defendants.
I've not seen a case like this in my 30-plus years of practicing law.
Noticeably upset in court Friday, retired HPD narcotics officer Gerald Goins, 54, must know he's in deep.
Upset? He got 2 people killed and their dog. And he's upset? Really?
Legal trouble. Officially charged twice. Murdering married couple Dennis Tuttle and Regina Nicholas at their home. Even though Goins may have not taken the fatal shots. Tuttle had 9 bullet wounds, Nicholas had 5. Remarkably, things...
Wow. 9 times they shot him. Wow.
Could get even worse for the former veteran HPD officer.
We believe that the evidence shows that during the commission of 1 felony, Goins committed acts clearly dangerous to human life. It makes it murder. But capital murder could be considered by a grand jury.
That would make it a death penalty eligible crime, although there was absolutely no indication Friday DA Ogg would pursue that course. Importantly, a grand jury has not yet signed off on the 2 murder charges against Goins or an evidence tampering charge against another former HPD narcotics officer, Stephen Bryant. Bryant, seen in court Friday in...
Dude, he shows up to court in a t-shirt and shorts? Are you freaking kidding me? Wow, you talk about arrogance. Holy shit.
Shorts. But why not let a grand jury indict them first?
What it says is that this is a case like no other that we've seen. We handled it appropriate, and we felt, based on the confidential informant, the fact that retirement money in their... We had brought charges
for both Goins and Bryant. We expect a grand jury to hear this matter within the coming weeks. We're live downtown. I'm Joel Eisenbaum, KPRC Channel 2 News.
All right, Joel, thank you so much for that update, sir. As we mentioned, those 2 officers appearing in court just a couple of hours ago. Our coverage of this story continues tonight with investigator Mario Diaz. He joins us live with more on that appearance and what the police chief had to say. Mario?
Yeah, Jonathan, after that riveting announcement today by DA Ogg, you had these 2 former NYPD officers walk the hallway behind me here, go into the courtroom, and face the judge about these charges.
They once swore to protect. Now former HPD narcotics officers Gerald Goins and Stephen Bryant are being viewed by the Harris County District Attorney's Office as violent criminals for their actions surrounding the botched raid on Harding Street.
Today, we charged Gerald Goins with 2 counts. Former tampering with the government.
Goins charged in the murder of Dennis Tuttle and Regina Nicholas. Bryant charged with tampering of a government document. Goins was given strict bail requirements and charged $150,000 bond for each count. His attorney, Nicole DeBoard, said they were shocked at the charges.
We're a little disappointed and surprised that in a case that's as serious as this one, the district attorney's office did not bother to vet it with a grand jury. No grand jury's heard the facts and circumstances of this allegation, and I think that's a very important part of this process.
Of course she's going to say that. She wants to start putting doubt and make it look like it's personal.
So I was a little disappointed to see that there was what seems to me to be a rush to judgment in this case.
David Mitchum is the prosecutor in this case. He says this is about seeking justice.
And when a matter like this occurs, certainly public confidence can be rattled. And so we are focused on justice in this matter, and we will seek it out, and we will find it, and we will get justice in these cases.
Michael Doyle, an attorney for the family of Regina Nicholas, had the following reaction to the charges. That's certainly consistent with what we found, but that shouldn't stop the investigation because there are a lot more questions unanswered. And let me be completely clear here. These were two former HPD retired officers that had the bond hearing here today.
Oh, so they're both retired. They both freaking retired.
I will tell you that in the last 30 minutes, the mayor, Sylvester Turner, has weighed in with a statement. It reads in part, an indictment of 2 police officers was announced today, and the legal process will run its course. The city will fully cooperate in seeing that justice is done. What is the next step in this judicial process? Well, Gerald Goins will be back before the judge on Monday morning. Live at the courthouse, downtown Houston.
Breaking news in Houston. A former police officer there is charged with murder in connection with a botched drug raid, a raid that police say never should have happened. Prosecutors say the now ex-cop, Gerald Goins, lied to obtain a search warrant on a home he said belonged to heroin dealers. But officers found no heroin when they raided the place in January. While a gun battle broke out, a couple was killed and 5 officers were injured, including Goins. Goins is also under investigation for allegedly stealing guns, drugs, and money.
Okay, so this is the update. Will ask for two $50,000 bill. Looks like he got 150 for each count, so he might have got 300. They didn't really say. This guy, both retired, both of them are like, hey, I ain't, you know, whatever. 2 people are dead. They don't have a picture of the dog. Bad case. Narcotic Squad 15. If I was the police chief, that unit, the entire unit, every one of them would be disbanded and they would be back on patrol and we would start over with supervisors and new people. I don't care what the finding is. If one officer can do this under the supervision of this squad, then that unit needs to go. But that's just me. I'm a jackhammer kind of guy. All right, well, then out there,